You think the sky is just above, a direction, a reference point, but direction only matters if distance exists. What happens when distance disappears? This episode is not about height. It is about something more dangerous. Coverage. Nothing falls. Nothing moves. Nothing presses down. And yet, from this moment on, nothing can ever escape again. The sky does not arrive. It remains. It does not touch the world because it never leaves it. This is not a story about violence or domination. It is about a condition that completes the world too early. Stay, because when existence becomes fully enclosed, change does not disappear. It turns inward. When the sky first appeared, it was understood as above. Above implies distance, and distance implies separation. But separation never happened. Instead, the sky extended itself without edge, without opening, not as an action, not as a decision, as a condition becoming complete. Above turned into around turned into everywhere. The sky stopped being a reference and became a boundary. Not a wall, not a barrier. A surface without thickness that could not be crossed because it never ended. Below did not notice this change immediately because nothing moved. But motion is not required for enclosure. Once the sky covered everything, there was no longer a somewhere else. Only a continuous inside. A roof does not press. It limits by presence alone. The sky became a roof without weight, without intention. Nothing touched it because everything was already touching it. The world now existed under something, even if that something never descended. Under is not a location, it is a relationship. From this moment, existence was no longer exposed. Exposure allows dispersion. Coverage prevents escape. The sky did not seal the world. It completed it. Completion changes behavior. Without any visible change, this is why nothing appears to happen here, and why everything changes anyway. A world with a roof behaves differently, even before it understands that the roof exists. Gaia remained where she was. She did not rise, she did not resist, but distance vanished. The sky did not move closer. It simply never moved away. Contact without pressure. Touch without force. Gaia and the sky shared a boundary, without a gap between them. A world without gap cannot breathe, not because it is crushed, but because it has nowhere to expand into. Nothing was wrong. Nothing was violent. Yet expansion quietly failed. Existence still held. Still endured. But endurance without space leads somewhere else. Not to collapse. Not yet. To accumulation. An accumulation does not announce itself when it begins. Contact usually implies collision. Here, there was only continuity. The sky never struck the ground because it never left it. Touch was permanent, uninterrupted. When contact never breaks, movement loses meaning. Nothing could separate long enough to change state. This is not restraint. It is saturation. Everywhere touched at once. A condition like this does not forbid motion. It makes motion ineffective. Change requires release. Release requires distance. The sky allowed neither, not because it refused, but because it covered. Coverage is neutral. And neutrality can be absolute. Emergence requires space, not effort. Here, effort would change nothing. The sky did not oppose formation. It prevented differentiation. When every direction is already filled, nothing can move outward enough to become distinct. Forms require edges. Edges require gaps. The sky erased gaps without touching edges. This is why nothing new appears. Not because creation failed, but because conditions are complete too early. Completion before separation halts becoming. The world now holds potential without outlet. Potential does not vanish when unused. It compresses inward. Compression does not require pressure, only confinement. The world now exists inside itself, inside without outside, contained without walls. This is not a prison, because there is no prisoner. It is a condition where escape is undefined. Everything fits perfectly, too perfectly. Perfect fit removes movement margins. Nothing can lean. Nothing can tilt. Balance becomes static. Static balance does not fail immediately. It waits. This waiting is not time. Time has not begun yet. It is persistence under coverage. And persistence always accumulates consequences. Even when nothing changes on the surface. Silence appears when motion loses relevance. The sky does not speak. It does not respond. Its presence is constant, which makes reaction impossible. Reaction requires variation. Variation requires distance. Enclosure removes both. This is why the world becomes quiet here. Not peaceful. Quiet. Quiet does not mean safe. Quiet means nothing can release what it holds. Silence thickens over time, even before time exists. The sky creates a silence that does not echo, because echoes need space, and space has already been taken. Everywhere. Completion feels final, but it is not resolution. The sky completes the world structurally, not functionally. A structure can exist without knowing how to change. This is that moment. Everything necessary is present. Nothing possible can happen. Completion locks potential in place. Nothing is broken. Nothing is missing. And yet, nothing can proceed. This contradiction is not emotional. It is architectural. The world is finished too early. Early completion is dangerous because it stores pressure silently. Pressure does not announce itself when stored. Only when release becomes necessary. No one opposes anyone here. There is no will, no refusal, no struggle. The sky does not dominate. The ground does not resist. This is not conflict. It is incompatibility between conditions.
Continuity no longer stabilizing.
Coverage and emergence cannot coexist indefinitely. They do not fight. They simply occupy the same space. Occupying the same space removes alternatives. Alternatives are required for evolution. Without alternatives, existence can only persist. Persistence without variation builds inward tension. Tension does not require emotion. It requires duration. And duration has just become unavoidable. Earlier, space could be neutral. Now, no place is untouched by structure. Everywhere is either ground or cover. Neutral zones disappear first. Neutrality allows mistakes without consequence.
Now carries implication. Doing nothing.
It allows change without commitment. The sky removes neutrality by filling it. Nothing remains optional. Existence becomes committed simply by continuing to exist. Commitment without choice produces strain. Strain does not need pain. Only inevitability. The world is now inevitable. And inevitability always carries weight.
And nothing can return
Weight
to how
without
it was.
motion is still
This
weight.
episode ends without damage, but not without consequence.
Pressure has not yet appeared. but its conditions have. Pressure does not begin with force. It begins when release is impossible. The sky does not press down. It prevents upward escape. The ground does not push back. It prevents downward dispersal. Between them, existence holds itself. Holding requires effort only when release is possible. Here, holding is automatic. Automatic holding accumulates strains silently. This is the last moment before pressure becomes visible. Nothing feels heavy yet, but heaviness is no longer avoidable. Birth requires separation, not intention. Separation requires a gap. The sky allows no gap. Everything touches everything else continuously. Nothing can detach enough to begin. This is not infertility. It is structural impossibility. Creation waits for a fault line. Fault lines require uneven pressure. Pressure has not formed yet. So birth remains suspended. Suspension is not failure. It is preparation without awareness. The world is becoming capable of breaking. Long before anything breaks, breath implies rhythm, in and out. The world has lost its out, only holding remains. Holding without release creates internal load. Load does not move. It accumulates. The sky does not breathe. The ground does not breathe. Between them, existence waits. Waiting without time feels endless. This is the longest moment so far, even though no time exists. The world is fully formed and completely stalled. Stalling is not collapse. It is the delay before necessity. Nothing that follows is accidental. The sky creates the need for what comes next. Not by acting, but by remaining. Enclosure forces resolution eventually. Without enclosure, nothing would ever need to change. With enclosure, change becomes unavoidable. The sky does not cause events, it aligns conditions. Alignment always precedes action. This is why Greek myth is structural first. Narrative comes later. Structure decides long before characters exist. The world has crossed a threshold.
ancient
without
mythological
movement,
cosmos. Continuation itself acquires consequence.
without
Duration
sound.
becomes active.
From this point on, persistence creates consequences. Earlier, persistence was neutral. Now, persistence stores imbalance. Imbalance does not correct itself. Correction requires separation. Separation has not happened yet. This is the last stable configuration before pressure becomes active. Nothing signals this change. That is what makes it dangerous. Everything is intact. The sky holds. The ground endures. No fracture, no rupture. And yet, this configuration cannot last indefinitely. Indefinite continuation requires outlets. Outlets no longer exist. The world is not broken. It is constrained perfectly. Perfect constraint always demands resolution later. Later is approaching, even if time does not yet exist. When coverage remains and separation does not occur. What forms next is not birth, it is pressure. Pressure does not act, it accumulates. The world is about to learn weight from within. Not because anything changes, but because nothing can change anymore. This is where the sky's silence turns inward.
Primordial Greek myth cosmos.
In the next episode,
Next is pressure, not emergence, not separation.
Gaia will begin to carry what cannot escape. Not yet breaking, only holding. Pressure is coming, quietly,